You know, this might be one of the biggest lighting setups that I've done in my career thus far. I could be wrong, but it's a big one and I want to talk about it, and I don't want it to be overwhelming because it can be when you got a bunch of grip and a bunch of people and a bunch of electric. And it's time to talk about what we did on this Western film. So, this Western film, No Good Legend, we shot this about a year ago with a whole group of people. We've got videos in the past that I'm going to link down below, so I don't need to get into detail of that. But we shot this Western a year ago, and it was a really, really fun time. I was the DP on it, and I want to just break down the lighting of a few of the shots in this scene because I think it's really helpful to understand how we got this really gritty Western look in the middle of the day and kind of what that process looked like. So without further ado, my name is Brady. Welcome back. If you don't know me, I'm a DP. I shoot things, and that's pretty much all that I do. Terrible intro, but we got no time to waste. We got a lot to talk about. Essentially, I'm not going to go through every single shot, but there's a few that I want to talk about. So if we look in, he walks into this saloon here, gives a whole stare down. Couple people look around. You got this beautiful master wide. This is one of my favorite shots that I've gotten in my career, so I'm excited to break that one down because there's a lot to talk about. But moving into it, he walks up, he kind of has this confrontation with the bartender here, pulls out a nice flashy gun. Beautiful shot there. We're going to get into that one as well. And then you kind of have this beautiful two shot that confrontation plays out on. You see some practicals, you see some beautiful lighting on his face. We're going to talk about that. And that's really, in a nutshell, kind of how the scene plays out. There's also one later on I might want to talk about as well, where we've got, which is Terry Warfield. Look at him. So beautiful. So this scene right here we're going to talk about as well, because we had to actually shoot this shot at night and continue on because we had to take a break for lunch and then come back to it all, and it was dark and we had to recreate the same daylight at night. So we're going to talk about this shot as well and the wider one that's attached to it. A lot to talk about. Let's go ahead and talk about the master wide because that's going to set the tone for everything here. So what do we see here when we look at this wide? We see our big shafts of light that are coming in here. We've got two windows, so two shafts of light. I see this little shimmer on the wall, and then I see the light hitting Captain there, the little bartender, handful of practicals. But that's not all. There's a little bit of some action going on up here as well that we're going to talk about. A little bit of haze coming in there, a little bit of something there. There's a lot going on. So this was a big wide shot. This is the one that took the longest time to set up, and rightfully so. I mean, it looks awesome. It's a big room. It's a wide. When you get these bigger rooms and these wide shots, you got to do more. And then we also had to overpower the sunlight that you can see out in the background outside. So what do we do with these slashes that are right here? Let's talk about that. Outside of our first window, this door, we knew that he's going to be coming in there. You can see this hard units playing on the back of his head as well. We just had one of those Nanlux 2400Bs that were out here, and we just had that, kind of further out, and I want to say we had it somewhere around 4000 Kelvin to give it this warmer shaft of light. But we had to mirror that, and we only had one of those Nanluxes. So outside this window, we had an M40, just an area M40 HMI, and we put that through a CTO gel. I want to say like a half strength just to warm it up and match it with what's going on here. So we had a Nanlux 24 LED here. We had an area M40 that was right here. But when we threw these in here, of course, once we add the haze, it makes these beautiful shafts of light. But this wall was not taking to it because if we look at, the room from a top down, and we've got the bar that's right here, we had the lights coming in at this direction, right? So this wall, which is right here, that wall was really dark, and I just wanted to bring some sort of something out there. So we actually took a mirror that was right here, like a little mirror board. You can see it's totally reflective. It's like a mirror. You can get a mirror like this in your house. This is for production, so it's bigger, it's heavier. But we've got this mirror taking that light and also bouncing through the windows. And we took some of this M40 that was coming through this window and just redirected it off of that. So you can see you get some of the reflections. So you can see you get some of the shadows of the window pane there. So we just took that beam and just bounced with a mirror board and just added a little bit of texture to this wall to bring up the level. You can see that on the clock. You can see it on all this stuff here. And it just brought in a little bit of level on this talent there, that background extra. So that's all that we had coming from the outside. I lied. We had one more big thing outside, which was it's a 12 by 12 ultra bounce is what it's technically called, meaning it's a big white bounce light, and it's angled that way because it's taking the skylight, bouncing off of that and shooting it into this window. And that was just an ultra bounce that we had. And the purpose of that is whenever I'm lighting my day interiors, you got to think about the light that's coming in. We have our hard sun, but there's also a big sky, which is acting as a huge softbox that is outside. So I wanted to, add a little bit of those cooler undertones that you're going to get in the shadows and where the sun isn't hitting. And I did that with that big 8x8 ultra bounce. So we had outside just taking some sun from above, bouncing it at an angle, and then just pushing it in some of these windows. You don't see it doing a ton, but it is just bringing up a little bit of that crunchy level that's there, and that's all the purpose that I wanted it to serve. You can kind of see some of it in there, and throughout, I mean, you've just got these kind of cooler undertones that you really aren't noticing, but they're there, because otherwise it would be very dark and crunchy. So that's all that we had coming from the outside. But on this wide shot, we actually had, you can see the glow of it because we had this place filled up with haze. We can see this glow that's coming from up here, which is a Nanlite Pavo Slim. I think it was a 120. And we had that just rigged up here because I wanted to, again, extend some of those cool tones that are coming from the sky and just shoot that in from above from the inside. So we just had that probably at 6,500 Kelvin, something cooler. And you can see it's just giving a little bit of that undertone in there and coming from above. Again, less is more with that. And then I don't know if it's rendering, but I know that we had a mirrored one of those as well here. So kind of on each side of the scene, we had these little Nanlite Pavo Slims from above, just shooting in a little bit of cool undertones into the scene just to bring up some of that crunch that may be there if they weren't existing. And then really all we did on top of that for this wide is you can see these little oil lamps that we added in, and that is just for practical use. This is circa 1880s maybe. There's no power, so we would naturally have these oil lamps here. And you can see that they're playing a little bit just for more so specular reflections. You can see there was one that was right here, and it's just giving this little glow on that little tobacco spit container that's up there. And that's it for the wide. And I say that's it as in like it's not a ton going on, but that's kind of what we did for the wide shot. Now that sets the tone for when we're shooting the entire scene. What I'll do is shoot the establishing wide, and then if I can, move into the tights in that order, because then I know where all the lighting is coming from. So when we move in here, we've got this interaction there. This shot really speaks to me. You got this and paired to that. We shot these at the same time. I want to say we had a 2 or 3 camera setup. Our A camera was an Arri Alexa Mini LF, and then we had 2 GH7s with the Arri Log Color Science as B cams, and we shot this on Atlas Mercury lenses. But this we didn't do a lot for. I know that when we moved to the tights, I did make a move to that Nanlux that was outside. So if we go to this one, you can see it's hitting right on him, but it's mainly coming from this M40 that was right there. And on the wide, it's okay. It's not always going to be totally continuous. But then we move into this. It is a little bit hotter and more intentional placement, kind of brushing over the shoulder of our bad guy here, which creates this really cool kind of eye silhouette there. So what we did for that is that Nanlux that was outside, this one, I just brought that down like 1.5 feet or so, and then just also moved it over. So then that now gave it this straight shot on our bartender. So, whoa, what did I do? What did he do? Problem solved. So then when we go in here, you see what it's doing when he's kind of blocking that light. And right there, this is one of my favorite shots I've gotten. It was kind of a little happy accident, but planned as well. I was more so trying to just, bring in all of this hard light and flood him here, but it made it work. So but it was a nice happy accident because when our bad guy came in here, he was blocking that light, and that made this really kind of fearful, incriminating, whatever look in his eyes that matched the story. And it looked awesome to where it just, this shadow line is from that door frame, and then this shadow line is from his shoulder. So we really have this tiny little beam of light that's coming in through there, and it just makes this beautiful look on all of his like sweat and his eyes and all of that, and it looked amazing. But can see there's something here as well. I feel like I'm going out of order, but that just really excited me. We just kind of kept what was going on there, and then just we were going fast and had to get the shot. So I did rig up. There was a nice little, we had a bounce, kind of just like a floor bounce of some sort of fixture. It might have been like a Nanlite 500 or something like that. Just bouncing off of something just to give this edge. We were in a really tight area. This did render kind of hotter than I wanted it to, but we were going fast. But, you know, for continuous sake, there was a mirror behind him, so we could say that that's just a reflection of the sun. But we did have a little soft bounce unit that was coming from right behind him, right behind the bar. And that's all that we had for this. You can see that I think these overhead Nanlites that we talked about, those cooler ones, were just bouncing in here, and you can see what it's doing is just giving a little bit of a return right there. And it just looks, you know, nice and pleasant. Just another under edge light because he's falling to black, really. But this is kind of the other part of that when he brings up the gun. This is fun. Look at that. Okay. This is ultimately the same thing, just a wider version of it. We shot these at the same time for sure. You can just see that bounce soft source coming in, giving a little bit of an edge there, a little glow to his back. Again, a little bit strong, but you know, you'll have that. You see these oil lamps giving these beautiful long specular reflections. Yeah, that Nanlux that we had coming in through here gives a great catch on the gun as well. Another happy accident. This one I was really loving these hard light. This whole project I was loving this hard quality of light that we had going on here because it's a Western. You got to embrace the grunge, you know? So that's what we had there. In a nutshell, to kind of sum it up, we had this wide shot right now. And then when we moved into the tights, which was this 2-shot confrontation, we had that clean single as well. We just beautied it up. We took a second and just moved the lights kind of into the placement that we knew would look a little bit better. No major changes, but a couple minor ones just to make things look really nice. So, I love that. That's so good. You can see, what I love about it is you can see the motion in his shadows. Because you know he pulled out the gun, and then coming to this, you can watch his eyes follow. He's pulling out the gun, and then as you see the tip of the gun fall down, you see the shadow come down too, and it kind of reveals his whole face. It's kind of like this taking off the mask kind of thing, or like now he's kind of got the doesn't have the upper edge, whatever the saying is. So another kind of happy accident there. Love the way that played out, and to add to that soft source that we had here, one of the main reasons we had that is because I wanted, when this happened, when they were talking, I wanted this just catch light and subtle little look on his face, because otherwise he would have been in darkness. Again, I think I went a little bit too hot on it, as we can see with this and as we can see with that, but that was the purpose that it served, is just to be able to bring him out of that darkness and be able to see his eye. They came in here. I don't want to touch too much on this, but you can see what we've got. Shout out Terry Warfield, by the way. Looks great. Killed it. But this little hot reflection that we've got on his cheek and kind of some of this piano and all of that, that was that Nanlux that was coming out there, hitting him from the side. And then inside, we just had, I want to say it was a bounce that we had as well. We had a Nanlite 720 just bouncing off of muslin. I want to say it would be like me to use muslin. I'm using muslin a lot, just to give this kind of key here, just to bring some level up to them, because we were battling that outside brightness and it was bright out there. So really what I did is just augmented that hard lights coming in here, that big source outside. So I just wanted to wrap around instead of sandwiching and doing a key here. Didn't want to do that. I just wanted to augment that sunlight and then bring in that soft key from inside here. Beautiful drawings there. So that would look fantastic. And we got the majority of that done during the day, but we did have to stop for lunch. And I want to talk about how we cut in to this night shot. Story-wise, same timeline, different story. That's why you see them in a different part of the bar. It was kind of like he said, she said type deal. But the catch is with this, we had to stop for lunch and then we had to come back and it was night. How are we gonna, this happens all the time where we need to bring back daylight or the light is changing throughout the day. It's something that's really important. So what we did here is we had to keep the same pattern of everything. We want to keep the same flavor, the same look and style and all of that. But what do we see? Let's talk about, because now we're in a totally different angle, setup, whatever. So we kind of have to reestablish everything. We see this nice hard light that's coming in here. I see this edge light that's coming in right there. And I see a key light kind of coming into play as well. And then there's some ambience that you can see very gentle in the background. I see this hard sun as well. So there were a few different things that we had going into play here, and let's break that down. Now, we did have, you can see this hard slash of light kind of falling into the background and hitting Terry a little bit as well, and hitting these guys on the arm. We had that Nanlux, that 2400 way outside, just shining through the windows, the doors, and that was just kind of falling into the background and decorating a little bit. You can see it's hitting him nicely right there. So really that was maintaining that hard quality light, right? But we wanted more than that. So above, overhead, I had a little Pavo Slim. There was like a little Nanlite Pavo Slim, again, that same one. I turned it and just pointed it in on the scene. You can see these cool tones that are falling in here, these undertones, right? Playing a little bit there. Really what it was is just that same color temperature, but we actually put it through some sort of frost, like a 4x4 frost. So we just had like the Nanlite through a 4x into that scene, and that was very gentle, again following that same undertone little setup that we had going on there. You can see it very gently coming through. But we had these oil lamps that are, remember the oil lamps that were being decorated throughout the whole scene. We had one that was somewhere over here. So what we did, you can see that very gentle little kiss. Again, less is more with these. Oil lamps aren't going to throw far light, so we wanted to keep that kind of true to life. But we had a little, it was one of those Nanlite Pavo Slims, right? Bounced off of a 4x4 muslin. So we just bounced it off of unbleached muslin, and then it gave just that little bit of kiss of light on him. And we brought that as warm as it goes. And I used unbleached just to make it a little bit warmer as well. So it was true to like what a oil temperature would be. But then the last thing, and I think that's playing for a lot of this background ambience, what we did was just, instead of taking that sunlight that we had before bouncing off of it, we used an M18 instead. So we used an M18 off of that Ultra Bounce inside, and just being at that 5600 that M18s are, it rendered as just this cool undertone ambience, as if the sky is just so gently pushing into the scene. Now, for some reason I got a lot of questions when I posted a reel on this. Why would I do this at night? Why wouldn't I just do it at day? And it's because things like we run out of time. Sorry, I kicked the tripod. We run out of time. Scheduling doesn't allow for that. We had to shoot later into the night because we had to shoot a night scene after this. There's a whole bunch of reasons why you can't shoot this at day. And even if you did shoot it at day, it wouldn't look like this. You would still have to light it. So if anything, when you shoot at night, you don't have to overpower daylight, and you can use cheaper, smaller, less bright fixtures. That was a lot. It was a lot. We just went through all of that. And I'm going to track down as much BTS as I can to show. I don't know how much is going to be there in the edit, just because I don't remember what I got. This was a year ago. But I wanted to really do this. This is one that I always kind of think back to and really enjoy the work that I did on. So I hope that you guys liked it as well. I'm going to leave a link down below. There were a ton of us creators, like Terry right there, myself. Brittany was DPing a different day of this. There were a lot of people on this. I'm going to link everyone down below because there's a whole playlist of all the other videos that you could watch if you want to reminisce on old times. But that's it. That's all. Just wanted to do a little lighting breakdown for you guys for kind of a daylight setup for in the Western world narrative. I don't know what we want to call it. But there we go. That's all. It's been long enough. So I'll catch you guys next time, and good night. And subscribe for more if you liked this. But my leg's fucking asleep right now. It's got the tinglies. I gotta go. Oh.